Great. And next up we have Jeff from Nimble AMS by Community Brands. There you go, Jeff. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. Let me share my. Okay. Thank you. So good afternoon. Thank you, Sherry. And thanks for the opportunity to share with you a quick glimpse of Nimble AMS, the most trusted AMS built on the Salesforce platform. And my name again is Jeff Golembiewski, or Jeff G for short. I'm the Director of Product Enablement for Nimble AMS, and a super fast bio of me. I'm Salesforce certified. I've been in the association industry for almost 30 years, either working for an association or bringing technology to associations. And then you can follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn if you want to connect. With this super brief Nimble AMS overview, we're going to start with a quick introduction of who we are, and then we're going to dive into the 5 reasons associations are trusting and choosing Nimble AMS. So who we are, Nimble AMS is part of the Community Brands family, and Community Brands is the leading provider of cloud-based software for associations. With over 3,000 employees and serving over 100,000 clients in 30+ countries, we are completely helping associations grow stronger and achieve their missions. Nimble AMS is the robust association management software system built on the Salesforce CRM platform. We've added all of the in-depth modern association management features you need to run your association business end to end, and we've added it all to the #1 CRM in the world, Salesforce. So now let's dive into learning more about Nimble AMS. The #1 reason people are choosing Nimble AMS is innovation. Nimble AMS is leading associations into a bold new frontier of innovation. This innovation can really be transformative, and the innovation that associations never in their wildest dreams thought they could leverage in an AMS. We have all been to websites where there's been a chat option. The chat is there so you as a customer can communicate. You can go to chat to maybe help with a reservation, a recent purchase, or maybe get help with your membership or a registration for an event. The chat option provides this text-style method of communication with someone in customer support. You're actually talking to or texting with a live customer support person. And right now, millennials, 65% prefer chat versus the phone call with their customer support. Does your AMS give you the tools to communicate with your members how they would prefer to communicate with you? Nimble AMS does. Using Nimble AMS with Salesforce's Service Cloud Live Agent, your staff can have a live chat with your members. So you'll get a log directly in Nimble AMS, a log history activity case right on that member's account. Your staff can type messages back and forth with your members, helping them in real time, sharing files, documents, sharing information about their orders, all while having the system automatically transcript that entire message right on their account. And when your staff is not in the office, you can still provide that same level of member support. That's where chatbots come in. With point-and-click driven chatbot skills, you can teach your AMS chatbot, how to respond to a wide variety of these common member service inquiries. You can extend your member service capabilities to support your members at any time. And with the rapidly changing landscape we're living in these days, people are doing things all day long, any hour, and chatbots will be a huge advantage to your association, providing an unparalleled member service experience. And I really think of that as a bold, modern member services team. Another top reason people love Nimble AMS is that business intelligence. We hear it over and over again in our demos. Reporting, business intelligence, it's a critical business issue that they have not solved in their current AMS. They know the data is there. They just have limited powers and ability to get to it and make it meaningful. Nimble AMS gives you access to all of Salesforce's powerful reporting tools. Nimble AMS comes standard with hundreds of pre-built queries, reports, dashboards, and then in this example, it is a simple query of an event's list of registrations. But Salesforce and Nimble AMS give you more. This list view query not only presents the data you're filtering on, but you also have the ability to have inline editing. So in this example of attendee registrations, I can inline edit, marking people as having attended. or I can actually select multiple records and update them all at once. This sort of ease of use, functionality, and interaction with your data just doesn't exist in legacy AMS products. Reports, just as easy. Clear results. What's unique is actionable links. All of these records have actionable links to bring you to the record that you may want to drill into for more details. And in this example to the far right, we're actually using a very powerful cross filter. I'm able to get a report that shows everyone registered for last year, but very quickly filter it to pull out and identify who doesn't have a registration this year. And we can pull all of this data together with clear and easy to understand KPI-driven dashboards. And in this example, we're comparing member retention year over year, as well as budget to goal numbers, actionable insights to achieve the association's goals and missions. Speaking of actionable insights, as we know, with your AMS, you have tons of awesome data. Wouldn't it be nice if your AMS could use that data to predict the future? Using artificial intelligence, it can. Flagging members that are high risk of not renewing, highlighting members that may be good candidates to join a certification program, giving you insights of who are the most engaged members that might go well on a volunteer basis or a committee. In this example, predict the annual meeting registrations that may not show up, all based on your historical data in the AMS. And using Nimble AMS's pre-built predictions, you have the ability to do just that, predict the future. Nimble AMS is leveraging Salesforce's point-and-click driven wizard called Einstein Prediction Builder. It's all AI driven. It lets you craft predictions based on your association data, and it steps you through the process. What are you predicting? What data should the prediction look at? Do you need to filter prediction to a specific area or focus? And at the end of the wizard, you get a report card on the prediction quality, giving you an opportunity to refine the prediction as needed. And as I mentioned, Nimble AMS is the first AMS with pre-built predictions, predictions for common association insights. You could use one of our pre-built predictions out of the box, clone it to make it your own, or using that prediction builder, create your own predictions based on your association's needs. And do you have that power today in your AMS? We have a wonderful case study from the Marine Corps Association and Foundation, and they were leveraging these predictions to target their most at-risk members. They were able to boost their membership retention by 25%. At the end of this, I'll share their success story case study in the chat for y'all. Another top reason people select Nimble AMS is Salesforce itself, the world-class CRM functionality that comes with it. I was in a demo last week where the association boldly stated, we are terrible at CRM. And that's why they're looking at Salesforce and Nimble AMS. We tuned Salesforce CRM for how associations operate. We have pre-built homepages to highlight departmental KPIs, easy task and activity management, even tools to chat and collaborate with your coworkers directly on the records in question. Nimble AMS comes with a suite of purpose-built apps dedicated to your departments and areas of focus, accounting, membership, events, and more. And we bring together all of the tools for you to get your job done in one area. And of course, with every CRM, you need beautiful and easy to read account pages. In this example, I'm looking at an individual member. At the top in the highlights panel, I can see everything I need to know about this person. Their name, who they work for, if they're a member, what type of member, how engaged are they a donor? The rest of the page gives us a better understanding of their member journey, quick links to their history, all sorts of demographics that you may want to track about the member. And again, keep in mind, this entire page can be configured to show you the most important information about your members. You'll see that same layout and easy visibility on your organization and company accounts as well. Key critical company attributes at the top, easy to view historical data, as well as all of their demographics. And a modern AMS would not be complete without full mobile access. So you can have your AMS data on your phone, your reports, your dashboards, anywhere and anytime. Our e-commerce is also a differentiator in the AMS world. It is unique. The Nimble AMS e-commerce is built using Salesforce's Lightning Communities platform, and that means you have e-commerce functionality at scale, just like Starbucks or Home Depot. You get beautiful point-and-click created microsites to bring focus and attention to areas you want to elevate and showcase, such as this educational fund microsite for the foundation. Or you may want to bring together the extra sizzle and content to define and explore your annual meeting registration experience, blending point-and-click created CMS-style content with your online AMS products, offering, and e-commerce. In this example, one of our clients, MDS, the Massachusetts Dental Society, they created a microsite for their big annual meeting and exposition. The site is complementary to their overall website look and feel, but it is unique to their specific event branding. The microsite can be configured to have a subset of pre-filtered product offerings that are complementary to the mission and goal of that particular microsite. For MDS, they specifically wanted a unique storefront for that Yankee Dental Congress event. And with that, they wanted to create a streamlined customer experience, consolidating everything from purchasing a booth and advertising and sponsorships along with registrations and other products. They wanted that convenience, more convenient for the customer. And the final reason Nimble AMS is so popular is upgrades. We hear it over and over again, and I'm sure we've all experienced it. When it comes to upgrades, legacy AMSs and even other AMS products built on Salesforce, the upgrades are painful. Their approaches to upgrades are very old school and antiquated. Customers, all on different versions of the software. Very often you have to do the upgrades yourself. That's a huge risk. Or you have to pay them big bucks to do that for you. And of course, there's the risk that when this happens, you have to be down for a period of time and often things broke. So what did most associations end up doing? Nothing. It was safer and easier just to stay on the outdated version of the software until there was a compelling reason to move. And that's not how technology works today. Modern association management software only has one version, just like a lot of the other software that we're using today every day. Gmail, Twitter, Facebook, every customer is on one version, the latest version. And that's where Nimble AMS comes in. Nimble AMS is the only enterprise AMS where every single one of our customers is on the same version of Salesforce and the same version of Nimble AMS. All our customers are never left behind, and they're always on the latest version, and the upgrades are included. Just this month, we upgraded all our customers to our latest release, Winter 21, and with each release, we're giving you more and more awesome features for your association. So thank you for taking the time today, and hopefully you can start to live the Nimble life.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, I do have a question. First, I have to say that the chat feature, that's awesome. I have a 19-year-old and a 14-year-old, and when I tell them to pick up the phone, you would think that they are having an anxiety attack over it. So that's great. And
the statistics are amazing on that front, where when you look at that, the latest statistics are globally, people prefer to chat versus phone call, and it's really changing quickly.
Yeah, that's great. So I do have a question. Somebody asked if the AMS offers a certification database component.
Yes, we do. And it can be used for certification, accreditation, certificates, definitely.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much for the presentation. If anybody has any other questions, Jeff will be here at the end of the wrap up. And I appreciate your time, Jeff.
Awesome.
And we're going to move on to Lance with Blue Sky eLearn.
Hello. Hi. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Kevin. Welcome. Such a pleasure to be here, and I'll share my screen. I'm going to do some slides, but I also want to show you a video, and I hope that the audio on the video will show through. Otherwise, I'll just narrate it. But I've been involved with producing virtual conferences since 2008, and tremendous amount has evolved in technology in that time. But one of the things that has remained as a concern and as a central discussion point with our clients who are now looking at virtual conferences, especially this year, looking at virtual conferences for the first time, is exhibitors, the revenue that comes from exhibitor spaces, and how to be flexible so that we can really create good revenue generating opportunities for our exhibitors. How do we, vendors, and you, associations, talk with our exhibitors who really are doing virtual conferences for the first time and are anxious about getting a return on their investment? So that's what I'm going to be talking with you about today. One of the interesting things about Blue Sky eLearn is that we have these three major components in our business. First of all of our virtual events are based on the Path LMS. So it's a learning platform that is being used to deploy these virtual events. And there are a lot of advantages to that, especially for educational conferences. But then the company also has a great amount of experience in doing webcasting, managed webinars, hybrid events in the good old days when we were broadcasting from live conferences out to remote audiences for the people who couldn't make it. So we have a whole team that is just totally dedicated to that. And then at the beginning of this year, we added a group to the company that does learning strategy and development, but actually I think that D could also be an acronym for design, because we have brought into the company and into the way that we do our virtual conferences a sense of design that we have really grown over this year. And so we're going to see that as we look at the virtual trade show spaces. But I just want to show you a quick example. It's like a minute and a half, just to give you a sense of what this kind of solution looks like. This is for Arkansas Bar. And let's see, maybe we'll see if the audio comes through. I have a feeling it might or might not. Let's see. So let me just stop it right there and just see, tell me, is that coming? Are you hearing the audio in that? Let me stop my screen share and just see. Were you hearing audio there?
No,
okay,
we were not.
Good. So I'm going to show this video and I'll just narrate it since I narrated the original anyway. So hold on here and let me just go back to that. And I'll share my screen. Okay. So this is the home page for their virtual conference when it was live. And they had a video component at the start to just get people excited about the conference. And then right underneath that, they had the chairs and the keynote speakers. And then when you scroll down on the home page, they show the different levels of their sponsors. So when we now click to go into the virtual conference, and this is on the Path platform. There I go. I'm going to click in there. 6-day conference. So if you click into any of those boxes, you go into the agenda and can access the content for that day. And if you go into the virtual exhibit hall, now we have a set of pages that have a video to get people excited about the exhibit hall overall, and then particular links, logos that can go into the trade show spaces. Now you'll notice the win a 25 gift card. I'll go back to that in a moment, just to finish up this video. This is just an example trade show space there. And we have a video at the top of it that is a demonstration, contact information of the people who are being at the booth. There are resources in a tab. Okay, So that is that. Now, okay, so you saw some tabs there for the resources and the contacts, but there is a lot of flexibility in what can be done in that space. And this is one of the main learnings that we have had this year, is that we needed to provide services and documentation for you all, talking to your trade show vendors about what they can do in your virtual trade show spaces. So we've created a new guide hot off the presses that I'm pleased to offer to anyone. Just send me your email and I'll be glad to send it to you. That really goes through kind of opening our eyes to what are the possibilities here now that we are not in a 10 by 10 booth. And we don't only have people available in our space at lunchtime down in the trade show hall, but we can take advantage of the fact that this is a virtual space. So, of course, your vendors are thinking as they approach looking at your virtual conferences, thinking, what is in it for them? And what we've learned is that, of course, there are three things that really haven't changed from a physical conference to a virtual conference, but that need to be really looked at in detail and design. The first is that vendors want to grow their network. Obviously, they want to meet people that they don't already know and get to know them and get to know their requirements and be able to talk to them about their requirements. They want more visibility. Especially the smaller companies want to be able to know that they're going to get some visibility for their brand within the site. How do they do that? Is it just a logo on one page? What are their options for that? That's a major question. And the third is information sharing. They may have demos. They may have links to special offers. They may have other information that they feel is really a competitive advantage that they want to be able to provide through the conference. And all of that is going to drive future business for them. You know, in fact, it's interesting when I'm just getting people on, you know, new clients who are doing virtual conferences, when we're just getting them onboarded, oftentimes they will say to us, one of the very first things they need are these resources to be able to, that they're already getting contacted by the vendors who want to take part in their virtual conference, and they, meaning you, the client, they don't know how to respond. And they need to be able to get that. That is one of the earliest deliverables in the process, as it turns out. So in your virtual conference, not just in your exhibit space, you have so many opportunities now that these conferences are online. And I'm just listing a few of these here. There's been a discussion in various sessions here about marketing and statistics and tracking. That is super important. There's also a lot of opportunity for collaboration and being able to do appointments and meet in person with people. And to have people, you know how when we're in a physical booth, you might be, someone might be talking about a product, but then there's other people who gather around who are listening. Well, that is so possible in a virtual conference because you can have your vendors do demos that are just part of the flow of the conference. They're not kind of separated in just a trade show. They actually flow into the conference agenda. And the visibility can be across any of the pages in the virtual conferences. Lots of opportunities for branding. So there was a question before about people kind of getting burned out on all the content that may stream live and pre-recorded through a virtual conference. And that is absolutely true, but exhibitors can help kind of add some space in between those sessions and within those days. We've had people do yoga sessions that are sponsored by one of the exhibitors. We've had exhibitors do a wine tasting and cheese sampling, different foods in their demos. We've also had people have exhibitors that sponsor educational sessions that are brought right into the flow of the days of the session and can sort of break up the other technical information that is in the conference. You also want to be able to provide your exhibitors with some handouts and online resources that can really show them what they're going to get and what they need to provide to you. So part of what we can do in our engagement with you is help you design how you want to talk to your exhibitors and what are the what are the highest priorities for them when they're looking at doing a virtual space in your conference. And these handouts are just showing some examples, but the one on the right hand side is showing how a booth might look. What are the options? Let's talk a little bit more about that. When you're putting together the packages that you present for your booths, you can mix and match the networking and the visibility and the information sharing across the different bands of packages that you provide. So here is an example. You might have, there's just a possibility, silver, gold, and platinum. They could be whatever you wish. And in those, as you go up in the dollar amounts that people invest, you can have them be able to do more logos across the site, to provide them with more metrics of the information that they get on the people that visit their booths, allow them to take part in sessions and have either a commercial that runs at the beginning of the session or information that is presented during the session. And also have them have more contact information in their booth. So there's just so much flexibility that you can do, and you can, and you don't just have to have like this 3 packages. You can also mix and match these elements according to each vendor and what their needs are. Beyond that, you can do emails. You can have conference banners that change during the conference. You can have prizes such as the one that we saw from ArcBar, where they actually incentivized people to come into the different booths and fill out a form that then they did a giveaway for that had some significant prizes at the end of the conference, and pre-recorded conference demos as well. So I just wanted to give you a quick taste of that. There's more in this guide, and we're glad to offer that to you today. We actually now bundle in design services with every virtual conference that we do, not only to design the overall site and the sort of lay of the land, the user experience, but also the trade show space layout, and how to give your how to maximize your revenue, and of course maximize your exhibitors' revenues. I was going to go through a couple other things about accessibility. I'll include this if anybody wants these slides. Just let me know. But I want to get to your questions now, and so I'll be glad to provide you with the guide, and also feel free to contact me. We have a ton of resources and case studies and webinar recordings that we've done across this whole year about virtual conferences. Well, thank you so much.
Great, thanks so much, Lance. I did have somebody ask about your contact information. You want to throw that up there again? I put it in the chat.
Oh, sure, of course.
But just in case people want to make sure they get all of your information down here while I'm.
Yeah, and calendly.com/lsimon-blue sky eLearn if you want to set up a free consultation. It'd be my pleasure. We do a lot of just consulting and discussion with people to shape their strategy for their virtual conference.
Terrific. So talk to us a little bit, I guess, what is, how do you see associations, how are they doing with exhibit sales, and does this kind of depend on profession, how things are going, or I guess what's your view?
Well, you know, because things have moved online, exhibitors and sponsors are really hungry for opportunities that make sense and will be profitable. And they're leery because a lot of online programs have not given them a good return. So designing these solutions specific to your exhibitors and being flexible, being able to be flexible is really the key. So we have had, I mean, that's an important part of almost every virtual conference we do, is the trade show spaces and the return on investment from that.
All right, great. Well, we appreciate it. Great presentation.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sure
thank
that
you.
folks can contact you about the guide. It looks like a great resource. And Jacob, you're ready to go. It's great. I'm going to stop my video and turn it over to you. This is Jacob from CadmiumCD.
Great, thank you so much, Sherry. Here, I'll share my screen. Just one moment, please. All right, so hopefully you can all see that now. So I want to spend most of my time today to give you a quick look into how CadmiumCD is offering event organizers that are faced with the challenge of bringing their events into a virtual space for the first time. And now increasingly, we're seeing an explosion of demand for hybrid environments. Especially out through summer 2021. So people are anticipating a successful vaccine coming through, and that's being reflected in the plans we're seeing from our prospective clients and our existing clients. So our set of virtual event products make it simple and efficient to gather your event content from your exhibitors and speakers and then make it available to your attendees. So that's all done on one intuitive and mobile-ready platform. So I want to offer you just a really high-level view of those services and hopefully speak to some of those fantastic best practices that we've learned about today from my fellow panelists. So let's get right into it. So CadmiumCD has been around for over 20 years and is an established technology solutions provider for organizers. We found our products really readily translated into a virtual environment and virtual applications. We've since directed our development resources into providing those same tools in a attendee-facing virtual platform. And we found that most of the tools that we already had been providing for that amount of time really did readily translate into a virtual environment. So we've grown a lot by the numbers, but also in terms of the value we offer to organizers and adapting to a really rapidly changing industry. So let's take a look at what we've been up to. So this is a top level view of how our platform works in terms of the flow of information between our products. And what it really illustrates is how our platform is integrated and makes it simple for organizers to gather and then publish content for their event, for their attendees. So in normal times, we would usually begin the conversation up here talking about conference logistics, things like managing physical event spaces, physical booth sales, things of that nature. But now in a virtual world, we can get right to the content, and that begins with our abstract scorecard and speaker and exhibitor sales features. So in terms of this chart, I'll bring your attention to the call for abstracts and booth and sponsor sales row here in gold. So that's where you would manage prospective speakers and exhibitors. For speakers, that means gathering suggestions for sessions or their abstracts and evaluating them and managing the follow-up communication for those you accept and reject. For exhibitors and sponsors, it means giving them a chance to evaluate what's available and purchasing what makes sense for them in terms of the sponsorship and exhibitor packages you offer. And then really the last step is to push all of that all that speaker and exhibitor content onto what we refer to as the harvester. So that's a tool for organizers to let them systematically reach out and directly to speakers and exhibitors to get all of the content they need for the event itself. So that includes everything from super simple bios, headshots, insurance forms, all the way to actually uploading and giving their presentation into the harvester itself. So, and that all happens on one fully integrated platform. So we do that, it's basically a checklist that's complete with deadlines and really gives your exhibitors and speakers a nice visual display of what they've submitted so far and what's still outstanding. So the key then, all of that information exists on one platform and is published onto our attendee-facing or EventScribe line of products. So let's shift and talk about what we actually offer attendees. So the challenge I think we're all facing is how to keep attendees engaged and interacting with your platform throughout your event. And we've developed a set of solutions that let you do that, or hopefully let you do that, and then also measure the results in the forms of analytics and reporting. So first, this includes an attendee response system that features things like live Q&A and attendee discussions that accompany your live streaming sessions. So for your virtual event or your in-person audience, in the case of hybrid events, would interact with speakers using those same sets of features. We really heavily emphasize gamification. In our platform, we refer to it as a scavenger hunt. And that gets your attendees' competitive juices flowing and really incentivizes interaction, especially with exhibitors, to then populate and really build out those lead generation reports that we want to offer them and really help them realize ROI. So we offer a matchmaking feature that lets your attendees get matched up with exhibitors based on fit that we determine through a series of questions that they answer in their attendee profiles, and just kind of lets them kind of cut through the noise and focus in on exactly the exhibitors that best match their interests. And of course, video chats, putting your attendees on camera and allowing them to interact with one another and kind of create that day of event feel. And really, they are so flexible. You could use them from anything, a super formal topic specific discussion room that's moderated and very formal to very informal fun activities like happy hours or just freewheeling kind of networking sessions. At our annual users group convention we held back in July on our platform, we used it in the form of a trivia night. So it was a little logistically challenging to pull off, but it just kind of demonstrates the really robust functionality in video chat and what it means to attendees in terms of their day of event experience. So now, next let's talk about your event program itself and your options in terms of content delivery. So an obvious must-have that many of my panelists have already covered, live streaming or putting your speakers on camera to deliver their presentations and answer questions from attendees in real time. So, and again, whether you have an all virtual or if you are planning on introducing an in-person component, those same sets of attendee response features can be used for both audiences. So we also offer continuing education and certification modules. So, and that does everything from hosting quizzes following sessions to generating certificates themselves and distributing those to your attendees upon completing the criteria you've established. And that same tool can be used to evaluate the sessions themselves. So how your speakers did and how engaged your attendees were with them and how they responded to that content. So then of course, on-demand sessions, which I alluded to a little bit earlier, that lets your attendees kind of go at their own pace and access content that's important to them. But I'll note that is distinguished because in our platform, they can entirely produce their session right on our platform. So right into the harvester, they can upload their slide deck and get on camera and give their presentation. And that removes a lot of uncertainty from your day of event program. Although I should note, I think it was called out in the previous presentation that you definitely want to introduce elements in the schedule that don't make your event platform feel like just a video library, so if there probably is a danger in that if you have just hundreds and hundreds of on-demand sessions but aren't breaking that up in your schedule with some kind of attendee engagement. So you definitely don't want to have all on-demand, but it definitely is a nice supplement to your plenary or your ongoing live streaming sessions. So one last content area I'd like to point out that I think we do probably the best in the industry is our poster module and our poster harvester. So it's the same system basically that collects your speaker sessions and captures the poster files and the poster presentations themselves and populates an e-poster gallery for your attendees. That lets them ask questions of the presenters and even evaluate the posters in real time if there's a competitive component to your poster program. So let's talk about project management. So I know I spent some time talking about this before, but I really want to emphasize what I think makes CadmiumCD unique specifically, and that's the integrated nature of our organizer and attendee-facing platforms that make managing your show simple and efficient. So everything you need to present to your attendees can be gathered and edited within the harvester, then made available basically instantaneously. So the key takeaway here is that the confusion that can be caused by managing 10 different platforms, or worse, even say doing things manually with emails and Excel sheets, we make it clean, easy, and systematic rather than scattershot. So if you're doing things manually in that regard, please get in touch with us. So what we're obviously looking for ultimately is generating our ROI for ourselves and for our exhibitors. And we facilitate that with hybrid and virtual events, similarly to how we do with historically in-person events, but in an all virtual or hybrid environment, it obviously becomes a different set of challenges to actually produce that ROI when we're dealing with something completely new. So on our platform, we include everything from booth and sponsorship sales to virtual trade shows that let exhibitors put products that they want to promote right in front of the attendees that need to see them. And then ultimately, since we were looking for ROI, we have a really robust reporting and analytics interface that empowers your exhibitors to go into the platform and pull those lead reports themselves that then would build out their, their own marketing efforts. So while I spent most of my time today talking about how wonderfully integrated CadmiumCD is, I also want to note that we're a very flexible platform that can be integrated with a broad range of third parties. So that's everything from AV companies facilitating live streams, association and learning management tools that you might already be contracted with, and perhaps most importantly, from at least a nuts and bolts perspective, allowing single sign-on and having your attendees keep them from having to manage multiple sets of login credentials. So that concludes my little spiel. Thank you for hearing me out and learning more about CadmiumCD. And there's definitely a lot more to unpack here. So if you're interested in learning more or receiving a demo, visit go.cadmiumcd.com/virtual or reach out to me directly. My email address is on the screen. I won't bother spelling that out. So we look forward to hearing from you, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have or hand it over to our next panelist. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Jacob. We do have a question. So, somebody asked, does Cadmium Solutions use Zoom or some other live stream webinar platform?
So no, our platform is entirely browser based. We don't use, we don't link out to external or third-party software. So we do use an open source platform to host our video chats and the live streaming windows, but they're all entirely integrated within the browser-based platform. So you wouldn't be linking out to, say, like a Zoom meeting that then opens up on a desktop or a mobile app. It's all on the same platform, and it's all kind of contained all together.
All right, terrific. All right, thank you so much. Great presentation. Now we will turn it over to Kevin, who will talk about some steps to choosing a partner.
Gary, I just wanted to borrow some of our time this afternoon about some 5 practices for selecting a technology partner. But first, as Sherry mentioned, I'm president and managing director of our digital solutions here at .org Source. And of course, .org Source is a management consultancy that focuses on business strategy and digital transformation. So what I wanted to do today was really share with you 5 strategies for selecting your technology partner. That is, being prepared, certainly understanding what you're trying to accomplish, understanding what your options are. And sometimes it's important to understand that chemistry between the your partners is more important than what the end solution could be. And then, of course, we can't forget about the paperwork. So first, being prepared. Certainly there's budget and requirements, but it's also very important that all the stakeholders are on board. And do they understand the project goals? And are they communicated throughout the entire organization? Also, determine if you need help from a consultant with the selection process. Determine what kind of staffing needs you may need, either permanent or temporary staffing needs. Certainly identifying a project planning team and implementation team, and are their responsibilities all clear? And it's very important to establish a predictable project communications and cadence of these meetings, so items can be talked about and tasks can be discussed. So understanding your needs, what are your requirements? What are you trying to do? And let's not get too hung up on all the wish list items. Oftentimes when I'm working with our clients, I ask them, what is the MVP, or what is that minimal viable product you need to launch your solution? And what are the necessary features to support your future state? So understanding your options, certainly you're doing your research, putting your users and your customers first, having what their experience should be, listening to what your members want. Also understand what your employees need to do their jobs more effectively. And if possible, maybe even conduct a short survey. Ask colleagues. Everyone loves to hear what others are doing. That's probably one of the best ways to understand what others are using and how they're using it. And then asking them questions about their vendor experience, the good and the bad. And asking questions, would they choose the same vendor again? And start narrowing down some of your choices. Also, I think it's very important to develop not only an agenda for when you review solutions, but actual scenarios or scripts that support your future state, and have the potential vendors show you how their software, how their features, how their functionality meets those needs that you're trying to deliver. Also develop a evaluation form so you can compare and contrast and ask some follow-up questions. I also think it's very important that you don't underestimate chemistry. And all of these great presentations we heard today, were done by professional sales folks, and it's very easy to fall in love with these guys because they know what they're talking about. They're very good, but typically they're not going to be saddled up with you during the implementation process. So it's going to be important for you to actually meet and talk with the implementation team, the project managers, and make sure there's some good chemistry there. Because if there's no good chemistry there, it doesn't matter how well the solution is, it'll be a very challenging implementation for you. And certainly we can't forget about the contract. It's very important to understand what you're getting and what you're not getting. Understand all the business terms. There are things like, does it auto renew? What kind of integrations are included? Does it include training? So I think understanding all the different business terms is obviously extremely important, in addition to the legal T's and C's. So anyway, those are just some 5 tips for you when you're looking for your next partner. Be happy to connect with you on LinkedIn and share any templates, questions, advice. You can use your camera and scan in the QR code, and we can link up via LinkedIn. And I think that's it.
Great, great. Thanks, Kevin. So I will ask all of our speakers to join now for some Q&A. All right, great. So we have for the next 15 minutes or so open Q&A for anybody who has questions about specific presentations, what they saw, any questions regarding anything related to kind of digital strategy moving forward. So Ron's asking, how early in the sales process do I get to meet my project team? What is typical? That's a good question, Ron. You know, I will let the folks here answer how they handle this, but, you know, Kevin and I have done vendor selection for 15 years through .org/source, and it's 9 times out of 10, people don't meet the project team unless we ask. And sometimes that's for a reason that they may not know who the project team is based on, you know, decisions that are happening. So for instance, they may not be able to assign a project manager until we're getting closer to selecting and getting started with the project. But I'll leave that there, and I see Rob shaking his head. He's kind of worked on all sides. I'll let Rob answer this question first.
So you give me the hard one. And of course, it doesn't surprise me that the hard one came from Ron Moen. I would say that probably the bigger the project, the more time you're going to wait. In other words, so if you're doing a giant AMS project, you're probably going to wait longer to meet that project team, because usually that means the sales process is longer. If you're buying a $500,000 system of some kind, that might be a year to 18 month sales process. So they're probably going to want to bring you in at the end. For something like an analytics solution, which is, you know, a tenth of a cost of that, probably we can bring that, you know, in early. And I suspect that that it probably, certainly the other speakers can jump in, but I think that that's probably more in line. Like for our sales process, maybe is more like 3 to 6 months. And so, you know, we'd be happy to get somebody involved, you know, maybe halfway through that, you know, start introducing, you know, of course, you want to have visibility. The vendor wants visibility into seeing that there's an end, because obviously if they spend time introducing the staff and then they don't feel like it's getting to the end game, then that's kind of wasted their time. So they might want to be at least at best and final or something like that. So anyway, those are my thoughts, Sherry.
And well, and the reason that we feel that it's important, because we have seen, not with anybody that's on this screen, but we've gone through a great sales process, and everybody, you know, loves seems to be the team. And then we get a project manager on the project and everything goes south. So, and that could be because of chemistry. They don't, you know, whatever those things might be. And there's certain expectations. So we do think, you know, it's important. Does somebody else want to jump in and respond to that question from Ron?
I'll just say, you know, we have 20 projects going on all the time. Our project teams are not formed until contracts are signed.
Yeah.
So people are great. I love people, but I also love process. And in particular, I like documented process. And one of the things that we do with our prospects and are able to show them is highly documented processes that we have developed that are part of our proprietary process that we use. And that's what has allowed us to completely double our company this year, was that we were able to hire good people, but slot them into these processes that were so well defined that within a month they could be, providing the results of those processes with excellence. So there's that too.
I'll just jump in. I agree with Rob. I think you got to get close to the best and final, because if you tell me that I want to meet your team in January, but I'm not going to make the decision until June. I kind of don't really know, what's going to happen between January and June. But if you say, look, we're going to make the decision next month, or even in a couple months, then we're happy to introduce you, to the team, but especially the project manager, because I think chemistry is really, really important. And, I think that's important. The success of a project really kind of in many ways hinges on the project manager and the main client contact really kind of gelling with each other. So they got each other's back, there's no throwing under the bus, et cetera. And that they frankly just like each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chemistry is so important because you get the wrong mix. That project manager can ask you to go out for ice cream and it'll be a disaster. And you just can't afford that in today's world. Everything's moving so fast. There's so many assumptions going on. And if you don't have that chemistry, or if there's just, not hitting it off, it'll be very, very painful. And you'll talk to a colleague using the same solution and it's great, but you didn't get the right chemistry and the project personnel, and it's just really hard. So.
Yeah, I'm going to flip this question. I mean, we said, here's the things associations need to think about, but on your side as a vendor, what do you want to see from the associations? I mean, we will tell people, make sure they've got a project manager, make sure they've got the amount of time that's, when we look at a project proposal, people will say, well, there's whatever, there's 100 hours of project management time. And we will say, well, then you guys need 100 hours of time on your end. And they look at us like we've got 5 heads. So what are the things, I mean, that's just one example, but there's a lot of things that we do to help prepare our clients for a project. Dan, I'm going to throw it to you. Like, what are you really wanting the association to do in order to, partner with you?
Well, the old adage of people and process is still true, but I think today it's speed as well. Everything's moving so quickly, and that requires a real cadence in project management. So what we look for ideally is, again, it depends on the size of the project, and we're working on one virtual conference coming up for next year that it's going to be huge. It's global. It's 15,000 attendees. There's a lot going on, and really, first of all, getting the client to understand what roles do they want to play, and have they got the capacity and the skill sets to play those roles. And if they do, great. Often we've seen people underestimating the amount of time that those roles may take or the technical skills required. And then as that awareness happens, a little bit of hey, would you mind taking that on? Which is fine, but the earlier you understand and identify those, the better. So that when the project plan is created and those weekly meetings happen, that you're not moving from green to yellow to red, because you've anticipated enough time on both sides to get things done within the time frame that's allowed.
All right, great. Anyone else want to jump in on that?
Yeah,
question?
I'd add to what Dan said. He said a couple of words, speed and cadence, and that is so critical right now with that communication, right? You were mentioning like a weekly status update type stuff, the speed of how quickly things move, who's owning what tasks. It's critical to have that regular communication, because one week the client may be moving faster and the vendor is moving slower, and then it switches, and the constant communication is critical to stay on track to hit any key deadlines and deliverables.
Yeah, predictable cadence. Yeah.
So we have a similar, I think this is Joanne asked a question. The buy-in of senior management and cross-disciplinary management involvement is key to success for these projects. What are your methods to assure the organization truly understands and is ready to do what is needed to make the outcomes successful? Anyone want to jump in to take that one?
I mean, I'll jump in. I'll tell you, one marker for us that an organization is ready is when they assign different types of people to a project. And I say that usually there's 3 types of people that you need in any project, whether it's a virtual meeting or a website redesign or an AMS implementation. You need kind of a communications or membership type person. You need a techie type person, and then you need someone who's kind of a senior staff person. And if we are able to get kind of representation from those 3 functions, that's an indication to us that the organization is really willing to put the resources up. The other thing that we do is we like to have early in the process kind of a meeting with the senior staff, like maybe the senior sponsor, just to say, hey, what are your expectations and what are your hopes and dreams for this project? And it helps us because sometimes we'll find out that there's been a total disconnect between what that senior staff person wants, and what the task order actually says. And you can catch it early. I'll say one thing to the other point about, chemistry and teams and stuff. And, what does it take on the client side? So one thing that I like to say is if we're trying to do something amazing in a short period of time, which is usually the case these days, then there's no throwing under the bus. Right? Because we're going to try stuff. It's not going to work. Someone's going to make a mistake. You're going to make a mistake. And we all just have to be in this together. And there's no throwing under the bus.
Yeah, that's a good point. We worked with a client that there were some new projects they were developing, and the senior staff, because of bandwidth, couldn't be involved. And we just had them actually go to the team and say, it's okay, we know mistakes are going to happen. It's okay if they happen. And that kind of, let everybody kind of put them at ease as to, it's okay to fail. We'll fix it. It'll be fine. They're not going to get in trouble for taking on an assignment of something that they've never done before, which we all saw with these virtual events. There was a lot of that going on this year, right? So any other thoughts on being ready to kind of do a technology project? Kevin, do you have any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to that future state. What are you trying to accomplish? Just because, you hear your other colleagues doing something, that may not be what your members want to do, what your team wants to do. So I think you need to focus on what you need to be doing and what your goals are, because it could be different than your neighbors or your colleagues.
So
I could add a point there. I
Yeah.
just think, digital transformation, we're all subsets of digital transformation, if you will, and it's a marathon. It's not a project, and every project should build on that mission. I always like to use that Facebook analogy because, Facebook and LinkedIn came onto the scene and really massively had engagement globally because of some very principles of investing in their own technology, continually reinforcing it and really making things simple. And the Amazons of the world succeed. Why? Because it's simple. They've taken friction out of digital engagement. And so all of these, whether it be AMS, whether it be a virtual or a hybrid event, whether it be whatever it is, think of them as building blocks and think of each supporting each other and building kind of a compounding benefit for members and a compounding benefit for your organization. And so I think every project has to look at fitting into a charter that is a bigger digital transformation charter, as well as having individual project goals. And so, because, COVID just accelerated for all of us this digital transformation. So we're all playing catch up, and it's just going to continue to accelerate. So that's the big opportunity is treating it individually, but also collectively.
Yeah, Kevin and I will tell our clients all the time, they'll complain about a software, whatever they're using, a product that doesn't have a certain feature, or, it can't do this. And it kind of goes back to that partnership and that relationship. The first thing we always say is, well, let's go ask them first, because A, you may not know that they have it. B, everybody's advancing their technology, so they may be building it, or C, you just may not know how to use it, right? Like there's all of those things. So let's explore that first with your current, technology stack or partner. And then, then we can have a comment that yes, it does or doesn't do that, right? So anyway, that's because I think, with all of you, your products have advanced tremendously over the last 6-8 months based on what your customers wanted and what their members wanted, right? So we talked about Jeff with chat, with all of your platforms. I mean, there's just people will ask, can it do this? Can it do that? And you're like, oh, that's a good idea. Let's build that in. So anyway, that's my soapbox comment for the moment. But we do have another question. Can Rob address data remediation and value of what is done with the outcome of data analytics, interpretation, and implementation, marathon versus project?
Well, I think that, so first of all, if you're thinking about any kind of data analytics initiative, I think you have to start, off by making some type of theory as to what you either want to prove or disprove. In other words, if you're trying to, like I had a client that I was doing a similar event like this yesterday, and they were trying to grow their revenue through what they were selling to their members. And so they had made, basically, they theorized that if they packaged certain products together, that they might be able to grow that. So what they did is they hunted for all their sales and then looked at how it correlated to other things that people would buy. And they then started offering those as packaged deals and really saw that increase. Then they had some others that they thought would correlate well when they found, in fact, they didn't correlate at all. So those things they didn't do. So they kind of went from across their organization, from like one department to another, trying to come up with like questions that they could ask that they then could go test. And then they would go look at the data and be able to analyze that. So it's somewhat episodic, moving from question to question, but overall you're driving at a goal across the whole organization.
Okay, thanks, Rob. So it doesn't look like we have any other questions, but I will give you guys maybe a quick wrap up with a comment or some things that people should be thinking about as we kind of move forward in this digital environment. Jeff, can I start with you?
Sure. I do think there's a lot, that with everything that we've all kind of gone through this year, there's a lot that we've all been, adapting to and stuff. I think it's interesting where we seem to be the busiest is, I think a lot of organizations using AMSs have identified the fragility of their current AMS and the limits of that, because a lot of systems are stress tested beyond belief now in how they're trying to use it and adapt it and things of that nature. So that's where we're getting a lot of the questions. And again, being built on Salesforce, which is built at scale, it just helps us from that aspect, from the ability to present their AMS and their CRM anywhere, anytime, on any device, to the balance of same thing on the e-commerce and how it's blending through an SSO or such to all of the other systems here. Because again, more of that is on that digital environment. The members are constantly going into the system, managing their data, accessing all of these different, live events and live content or streaming content.
Great, thanks, Jeff. Lance?
I've just asked you to think about support. That's something, I'm not sure that word has even been brought up today. As I go through my discussion with people on virtual events for the last 10 years, the thing that they never ask about is support, or maybe they ask one or two questions. But there's 10 questions that you really ought to ask about support. Going back to processes for support, how many support technicians do you support attendees? Can we make changes to the platform? Do you train us on how to make changes to the, it just goes on and on. And I find that to be an area, we really focus on that as an area of excellence for our company. And I would urge people to ask, poke into that. Don't be afraid to ask for proof about the support that your vendor provides.
That was a really good point, Lance. Thanks for bringing that up. Doug?
Yeah, support, that was really good, Lance. That's a great point, but also don't forget about the content. I mean, you can get caught up in the features and does it have a notification? There's so many things that they're looking for. Sometimes they forget to focus on the content, delivering it in the best possible way so that the content itself increases engagement, not just having the tools in place, but the content that encourages that too. So don't forget about the content and producing it the best way you possibly can to help increase engagement and keep people at their screens, and not just, there's a great question asked earlier in the chat about keeping people engaged. Focusing on that content really helps with that.
Great, thanks, Doug. Dan?
Well, I'll repeat kind of what I said a little earlier today, which is adapting for digital engagement. You know, we're going to have more and more of our content consumed digitally as associations, and you know, a lot of organizations are taking the old approach, like when we took a magazine and put it online and wondered why it didn't work. We took the same structure of a magazine and tried to make it work in a digital framework. And a lot of people are doing that with their events right now, as opposed to looking at this blended environment or looking how people behave online, whether it be for content or exhibitor engagement or sponsor engagement and so forth. So really adapting, and what you'll find is you'll move towards shorter sessions, more Q&A, more engagement, you know, really adapting the model to make it enjoyable for that person on that device. And so I think this is the time to, you know, now that people are through their first and second, maybe even third event, is to start experimenting with those models and really measuring those analytics to say, where's my fall off? If my particular association can only handle 2 hours in a row, then don't design 8-hour programs.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Dan. Joanna?
I got two things. One is, to Rob's point, I think you want to take your virtual event data and merge it with membership data, because if you're just looking at the event data, you probably just have data from the registration. But if you start layering in membership data, when they joined, membership type, gender, you know, all these other things, then you can get much more interesting analytics about your virtual meeting attendees. The second thing is, I mean, just echoing what Dan said, and I would say take some risks, right? I think this is not the time to be timid. I was on the phone with somebody who called us about something completely different, and we were talking about virtual events, and she said, well, you know, Joanna, she said, our event, we've run it that way for the last 50 years, and if we can't run it that way in person, then we're just not going to have it at all. And she said, why would, and then the words that came out of her mouth were, why would we change? And I wanted to say, I don't know, because maybe we have a global pandemic that's upended everything. Perhaps that's a good reason to change. So, but take some risks, because I think your members are waiting for you to take some risks, to show some leadership and be bold.
Great. Thanks for that, Joanna. Jacob.
Sure. So at the risk of being too obvious and maybe a little bit of no-duh advice, get started early. Just if you're, especially if you're still looking at platforms and evaluating your needs against what's out there, just don't wait. If you're even having that thought, it's time to get started, and don't delay anymore.
Awesome. Rob, do you have any?
Sure, I got one. Sure. So, I mean, obviously today that all of you have heard from all of these speakers about the great products that their companies offer. And, you know, I would highly encourage you to, you know, to implement these systems. But, you know, as I was saying earlier, as you add another system to your infrastructure, you're further, you know, watering down where your activity is happening. So you need an analytics platform with your data blended together so that you can analyze what's going on in all those systems. So I recommend that you look into that, and it's a lot easier to bring data into a data warehouse, a modern data lake, than it is to take data from one system that's in a SQL format and turn it around and put it into another SQL system. It's a lot more work. So the one is easier than the other.
Thanks, Rob. And Kevin, I'll let you wrap it up.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. This has been a great session, and it always comes down to people, process, culture, and technology that all have to be in alignment. And I need to leave technology last because we've seen all great solutions today, and there's great solutions out there, but it's where that leadership and guiding your organization for your people, process, and culture is going to be very important. And inaction is going to be the death of you guys if you can't make those decisions. And we've heard take a risk, partner out there, do something different, understand that things are going to be a little different moving forward, but you got to make decisions, you got to take some action, and you got to lead and make sure those things are aligned, or else you're going to be left in the dust.
All right, great. Well, thanks everyone. It was a long afternoon. Glad you guys all hung in here with us and hope it was helpful. I'm going to leave this open, the Zoom meeting open for just a minute or so, because there's been some resources and some discussion happening. So we'll leave it on here for a minute, and hope you all have a great evening. Thanks so much to all of our speakers today. We really appreciate it.
Yep,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.